Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm GC Smith here with another Oath of the Gatewatch deck tech, and this time in card form, because today I'm presenting you the deck tech for the deck I took to Games Day today. Now, I want you to bear with me because there's a few cards missing from my total card pool because I borrowed some cards for the game day today, but I will tell you the numbers of cards if there are any missing. So first up, we're going to start with the land base, and we will have 4 Flooded Strands. So I've got 3, 1 missing I borrowed. 4 Prairie Stream, 4 Shivan Reef, 2 Plains, 2 Evolving Wilds, 2 Islands, 4 Battlefield Forge, a Waste, and the final slot I think is a evolving spot that you can put anything in, really. Either another red source, either another colour source, so something like Ruins of Ore and Wreath, or a manland like Wandering Thermal, because the occasional manland can help you quite a lot. That should come to 24 land. If there's any missing, please check the description below the video, because the full deck list will be written below. Then we come to the main engine of the deck. This is Reflector Mage, Eldrazi Displacer, and Whirler Rogue. Again, we should be running 4 of each of those. As you should know by the deck title, this deck is blue-white splash red value deck. Basically, the original deck started off as me using Displacer Mage, Eldrazi Displacer, Reflector Mage, and Whirler Rogue as like a series of value engines, and was straight blue-white with a lot of different sources of colour, such as Crumbling Vestige and stuff. And then I realised that the Pain lands were probably strictly better over Crumbling Vestige, since A, they could provide colourless to the turn they came in if I needed colourless there and then, and B, would always provide me at least one of my colours for the deck, even if it's at the cost of Pain. At which point, since both my Pain lands provided red mana, and I calculated I had about enough to run colourless sources, I then decided that I might as well splash in Mantis Rider in the main board. And Mantis Rider has been an absolutely amazing card, and it improved my straight blue-white decks match up against various other decks in the format. Rally and Eldrazi both improved vastly, because they are two kind of difficult matchups, but they both struggle to deal with flyers, especially early aggressive flyers like Mantis Rider. Then we've got the other aggressive bit of the deck, something that provides a bit of an early game, and this is Seek Away. This helps improve, again, Eldrazi matchup by giving something else faster compared to my original version of the deck. But it also gives us a source of life gain when we combine it with all our non-creature spells, and we have a few of those, which really helps us in our aggro matchups. And then we have, so we have 3 of those and 3 Mantis Riders. And then we have 4 Gideon, Ally of Zendikar. I actually own all of these, which is good, one of which is foil. This card is absolutely amazing, and I've found that I'll often be minusing it, in this deck, ultimately. Simply because it turns out that when you have Eldrazi Displacer, creating a load of 2/2 flyers every turn with Whirler Rogue is insane. But we also have 2 Secure the Wastes in our deck, which again really help us when we +1 Gideon. Another reason to +1 Gideon as well is if you want to play around certain things like Kozilek's Return, because by +1ing Gideon, all of our creatures, apart from the tokens created by Whirler Rogue, will then go on to survive at least the 2 damage version, if not the 5 damage version of Kozilek's Return. Gideon, Ally of Zendikar, is also just a really good threat because he can be really hard to deal with, because he protects himself on an empty board and gives us incremental advantage over a game. And by the way, hitting for 5 a turn is insane, but I shouldn't need to declare his glory too much. Again, Secure the Waste, it's just a good card. Provides us with tokens, chump blockers, aggression, instant speed, it's just good. And then we have 2 Wingmate Roc. So the deck originally ran 3, then I removed them when I added the Mantis Rider, but found that I often got to about 5 mana with nothing much else to do. So having a Wingmate Roc to increase my clock, or give me something to do at 5 mana, but also give me some really decently costed power and toughness flyers was also really good. Then we come on to our removal package, and this is basically just 3 Stasis Snare and 3 Silkwrap. Splitting the value between them seems pretty good. We've got some early game removal, some late game removal, and overall it's pretty good, and our sideboard will help us deal with this. Also meant to be in this deck list but not pictured are 4 Mainboard Hallowed Moonlights. So I actually had to borrow all the Hallowed Moonlights, so I wasn't able to get any of those. And some of you may be wondering why Mainboard Hallowed Moonlights. Pretty much for the Rally the Ancestors matchup. There's at least 2, if not 3 players at my local store that play Rally the Ancestors, so it was good in the metagame. But more importantly, because this deck's main removal is enchantment, or enchantments, and we only run 6 fetch lands, cards like Dig Through Time did seem to be pretty slow in this deck. We were never powering out, and especially since we don't have Jason stuff to help combine it as well. And so it just felt better to have a card that not only drew us cards so we can get further into the game or give us something to end of the turn, but also gives us a card that hates on some of the decks that exist in the format. In addition, there's just the occasional deck that runs Collected Company, like the various value decks, and so having Mainboard Hallowed Moonlights is something A, people don't expect or play around, and B, is just decent. And it basically occupies the slot that Anticipate used to be in, but I found that I didn't really care which of the 3 top cards I was getting too often. Either I'd hit 3 of basically the same card, or I found that I'd rather just have the Hallowed Moonlights to improve my matchups against Rally. Basically, Rally and Eldrazi were my 2 weakest matchups, and I feel if your matchups are that bad as I felt they were, you either need to find a deck that's better against them, have amazing sideboard options, or make your deck mainboard better against them. And since the Rally the Ancestors deck I could hate on without really at much opportunity cost, because at the very least it always draws you a card, I found that Hallowed Moonlight was the best version to go with. There's also the fact that Hallowed Moonlight does combo really well with, or can combo with Eldrazi Displacer. If you have a bit of mana and you'd rather just remove their creature instead of allowing them to get it back, either because flickering it would give them into the battlefield effects, or you just want it gone permanently rather than temporarily, then you can cast Hallowed Moonlight, let it resolve, then flicker their creature with Displacer. That's actually quite decent. So that's the main board of the deck covered. And then we come on to the sideboard. Now, I personally don't believe necessarily in giving firm sideboard advice, simply because I believe sideboards are always going to be more of a metagame call than anything else. If you don't have any Eldrazi decks in your metagame, you're not going to be, have sideboard hate for Eldrazi. So this sideboard is literally just a basic shell version of what I ran today. Doesn't have all my cards, and should really be considered more of a guideline on how I feel you should sideboard. So first up we have 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke. I find that Disdainful Stroke is a valuable card against various matchups, and it's more of a universal counterspell against things. It hits Eldrazi, Rally the Ancestors, Collected Company, it hits mid-range matches. It's basically there for when you feel that you want to rather counter things rather than let them resolve. So if there's certain things you just want to get rid of, but again, mainly like Eldrazi, Disdainful Stroke comes in. Then there's 2 Thought-Knot Seers. We run a lot of colour sources, obviously, to make Eldrazi Displacer work, and so going to Thought-Knot Seer makes a ton of sense. The card allows us to rip apart our opponent's hands, and again is just a universal good answer to stopping things before they happen. Again, this comes in against the Eldrazi decks, and can be brought in against the various mid-range matchups. Basically, if we don't need our deck to be so fast, or as fast as it is, which isn't super fast, but if we don't need like the Seek of the Way, or we think that cards like Seeker will be quickly outclassed in the matchup, we can swap some of them out for Thought-Knot Seer to improve our matchup there. Then we've got 2 Dispel, and they come in against control, really. And actually, all of these come in against control decks, really. Dispel, I find, is really good against the various control matchups, against the Jeskai Black decks, and against some of the more burn-based aggro decks. It always gets some value. And again, you can bring it in against Rally. In fact, I bring it in against Rally over Disdainful Stroke because it also counters their Dispels. Then we have a Silkwrap and a single Stasis Snare, basically to allow us to tool our removal suite up to 4 of each if necessary. So if we're against a more aggressive deck or more late game deck, we've got that. Then we have Eldrazi Obligators. Now I actually want to get hold of 2 more to go up to 4. Because Eldrazi Obligators again is great against lots of various decks in the format. It's absolutely amazing against Eldrazi, because if we've managed to put up a good board position, a good board presence, often when they cast cards like Ulamog or Kozilek, especially Ulamog, they're going to be using it to exile our board presence, not our lands, hopefully. Obviously, though, if they've got Kozilek's Return, then it's probably hitting our lands, so that's not so good. But this guy is not only good early game against them, obviously, because it's a hasty creature, they don't often play that many early creatures, depending on the build. But it's also really good late game, because we can probably get them to about 13 life or below before they play a big Eldrazi. And then this guy hits them for 3 after stealing their creature, which also hits them for a ton of damage. It's also quite good against Kozilek heavy builds, because those builds of the deck, even though they can counter this creature, they can't counter his on-cast trigger, which is really good. So you still get to steal their Kozilek and hit them for 12. And then we run some number of Arashin Clerics. I only have 2 at the moment, but I would run about 3. Maybe 4, depending on how big aggro is in your meta game. This card is just really good against aggro. Life gain is so good. And it helps complement our Seek of the Way in that matchup. But also, it's just also a good life gain thing because of its interaction with Eldrazi Displacer. We can flicker it and keep gaining life after blocking and stuff. So it has a good matchup. Other sideboard cards you might want to consider are things like Immolating Glare, a good 2-mana white removal spell. Some more conditional in some ways than our existing removal, because our current removals package can all be used in a board stall, and it's also not necessarily as good against Rally Ancestors than our exile-based removal spells are. You may also want to consider more, say, aggressive sideboard hate for like the Rally deck, such as Cranial Archive, while that's in the format. Because they help shuffle away their graveyard as well. So, but there's a load of different things you may want to do depending on what you think your worst matchups are. Negates, and just various other things like that. So yeah, that's been my blue-white splashing red value deck tech. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video around. I absolutely love making these videos for you. And hopefully you enjoyed the different format. Please let me know in the comments actually if you prefer a card-based format like this or the more PowerPointy based format I did before for the previous deck tech, the Jeskai combo deck tech I did pre-Oath of the Gatewatch release. Although I admit this deck's probably slightly better than that. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.